All right, this weekend, the UFC returns to London once again for yet another incredible night of fights. And ever since 2002, the UFC have been going there very, very regularly. There's been tremendous talent from the UK. But as I say, UFC 38, the brawl at the Hall. That was the first time that the UFC came to the UK, and that is what spawned a lot of the UK MMA scene. It was only a few weeks after that event that shows like Cage Rage and Cage Warriors started popping up. Promoters saw an angle to make some money. Young guys that did martial arts or maybe that were natural fighters saw an avenue to make money, and people like myself were very much inspired by the action that took place. Now, what I'm going to do in this, I'm going to go through the top 5 fights that have taken place on British soil. Some of them might include me, so please don't call me an arrogant bastard.
Bisping is who he is.
Number 5, Gabriel Gonzaga versus Mirko Cro Cop at UFC 70, where I made my British debut. Mirko Cro Cop was known as a stone cold killer, came over from Pride. We know the deal by now. Left leg cemetery, right leg hospital, all the rest of it. Gabriel Gonzaga was a very big, imposing man, but known for his grappling prowess, okay? Coming into this fight, the easy theory was for Gonzaga to win, he's got to take him down. And for Cro Cop to win, it's simple. Keep the fight on the feet and let the feet do the talking. Okay, but that's not what happened. Didn't take long before he went down. And when I say he, I'm talking about Mirko Cro Cop. They were very tentative. They were going back and forth. The crowd were on the edge of the feet. They were waiting for it. And then, woof, the head kick lands. But not from Cro Cop, from Gabriel Gonzaga. And I think maybe Cro Cop got a little complacent. I don't know what it was. Maybe Gonzaga drilled that kick so many times. He certainly did, because when it hit Cro Cop, he fell backwards, his leg was all contorted, and the audience couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. I had my fight, I sprinted out to watch it. What a shocking upset that was. But my God, what a great performance and a great spectacle to happen in the UK. Number 4, BJ Penn versus Joe Daddy Stevenson. Now, this was back in 2007, I believe, UFC 80. Okay, and they're fighting for the lightweight title in Newcastle, England. Okay, BJ Penn, an absolute legend, the man that was a welterweight champion and a lightweight champion, and truly is one of the GOATs of this sport. If you go back and you look at BJ Penn, when he was in his prime, my God, the performances that he delivered. Now, he was taking on Joe Daddy Stevenson, a guy that was a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, a great fighter in his own right, because of course, he earned the title fight, and he was the winner of season 2 of The Ultimate Fighter. So, a lot of name value and big, fan recognition. Coming into this one, BJ Penn was a hero of Joe Stevenson, okay? He really looked up to him, he idolized him, but that didn't matter to BJ Penn. When that fight started, of course, a lot of respect before, tremendous respect afterwards, but BJ Penn in the octagon is an absolute killer. Now, he was there with my coach and mentor, Jason Perillo. I didn't even know the name Jason Perillo. I didn't even know the man existed, but I knew about BJ Penn. I knew what he was capable of, and in this fight against Joe Daddy Stevenson, he was relentless. I mean, he was just one step ahead the whole time. He took him down pretty early in the first round, got on top, chipped away with punches, elbows, etc. And then there was a huge elbow near the end of the first round, opened up a huge gash on the forehead of Joe Stevenson. And oh my God, talk about a bloodbath. Absolute blood everywhere. And then the second round takes him down, takes his back. It's like something out of a horror movie. There's blood everywhere. BJ Penn gets the choke. Joe Daddy Stevenson, whilst covered in blood, is actually crying his eyes out as well, because it was such an emotional experience fighting his hero like that, and of course to get beaten down and lose the title fight. But congrats to BJ Penn. UFC 80, Newcastle. Why I, man? In at number 3, Jorge Masvidal versus Darren Till, UFC Fight Night. Main event, okay? Coming into this one, Darren Till had sadly just lost to Tyron Woodley in a world title fight at welterweight, but tremendous amount of potential, and he was taking the UFC by storm. The popularity of the man is absolutely insane, and coming into that fight night, everyone was pro Darren Till. Everyone expected him to have a shutout, standout performance, taking on Jorge Masvidal, a guy that's a veteran, a guy that's dangerous, but Darren Till was massively favoured. Now, as we know, Masvidal prior to that went on some kind of awakening. He went on a trip, he disappeared on a reality TV show to a jungle, and he said he came back a different man. And that's certainly true, because in that year, 2019, he had the 3 best fights of his career. And the first one was against Darren Till. Now, when the fight started, Darren Till got off to a fantastic start. I think he dropped Masvidal, Masvidal gets up though because he ain't no punk, he ain't no bitch, and he ain't no quitter. He got back to his feet, fired one back at Darren. Darren took it on his chin, wasn't bothered, was smiling at him, calling him on. And it was a wild fight. It really was, back and forth until the end came. And it was a very... it was a good setup. It was very, very tricky. It was like a little stutter step what Masvidal did, and he caught him with a huge left hook while switching stances. And Darren Till was caught, went down. Sadly, he was unconscious, and Masvidal jumped on and landed a couple of more. Listen, Darren's going to be back. I say he's going to be a champion one day, but he would agree to you. You know, listen, that was a tremendous performance by the one and only Jorge Gamebred Masvidal. Number 2. All right, come on. I had to throw myself in there. Which one's it going to be? Is it going to be Dan Henderson, UFC 204, where I defended my belt at 5 o'clock in the morning? Is it going to be when I beat Dennis Khan coming back from getting knocked out, utterly unconscious into the next year from Dan Henderson after UFC 100? No. I'm going to say Anderson Silva. Okay, obviously defending the belt in the UK for me was a massive deal. It was huge. But prior to becoming the champion, I always wanted to fight Anderson Silva. And obviously because of my eye troubles at the time, I knew I was on borrowed time, and I didn't think I would ever get to fight for the belt. And I looked at Anderson Silva as being my world title fight. Of course, he was known for being one of the best fighters ever, defended the belt something like 12 times, went on a 14 or 15 fight unbeaten streak. But I always felt that I could beat him. Now, coming into this one, I knew what people were saying about me. They said Bisping was a good fighter, but he could never win the big ones. So I wanted to dispel that narrative. I wanted to do away with that. I wanted to show that I could beat one of the greats. So coming into that one was a big, big deal for me. I came out with the Union Jack around me. The support that I got from the UK crowd was always phenomenal, and thank you always for that. But yeah, let's get to the fight. We're in there. Things are going well. Round 1's going good. I kind of clip him near the end. Not the most action-packed round, but I kind of dropped him at the end of round 1. Round 2, I started as I ended round 1, landing some good shots. Then boom, left hook lands. He goes down. I jump in his guard, land a few shots. That's the end of round 2. Round 3, I'm carrying on. Business as usual. No problem. Walking the park, outboxing him, landing some good kicks, and then my mouthpiece comes out. Mouthpiece, gum shield we call it in England. Gum shield comes out, lands on the floor. Anderson's a devastating striker. And regardless of what people say about British people's teeth, my teeth are pretty good. And I want to hang on to them, thank you very much. So there's a break in the action. I'm signalling to Herb Dean, Herb, whoa, my mouthpiece, you know? As I'm backing up. Say you're in front of me there, say my hand is Anderson Silva. I turn to the side to point at my mouthpiece. But if that's my hand, if I turn to the side, I can't see my hand. My hand doesn't exist to me because this side doesn't work. So I point at my mouthpiece, and then when I turn round, Anderson Silva, fair play, you got to protect yourself at all time. Anderson Silva's in midair, doof, lands a flying knee. I go down as the round ends. Herb Dean jumps in. All hell breaks loose, right? Everybody thinks that Anderson Silva's won the fight, right? But I look down, I say to Herb Dean, I say, I'm not out. And he says, I know, fight's still on. Anyway, I crawl myself back to my feet. The crowd erupts, goes absolutely incredible. I've got blood spattering all over the place. I've got a bunch of new scars from that night alone. I didn't get to see a cut, man. Anderson Silva was convinced that the fight was won and that it was over. He was on top of the cage celebrating, trying to sell his victory. But of course it wasn't. And we went out there for round 4. I had a great round 4. I don't know where I summoned up the energy to do what I did. Round 5 was a tough one. Anderson landed some heavy, heavy shots, some beautiful front kicks to the face. And we went to the scorecards. Okay, we went to the scorecards. I was declared the winner. 3 rounds to 2. And I feel that that's undebatable, to be quite frank. For all those people that think that I lost that fight, you're out of your mind. But then after that, it was nothing but respect. You know, me and Anderson both kneeled to one another. I talked a lot of shit coming into this one. I had to, because I knew Anderson Silva was a great fighter. I had to strip him down to just a mere mortal, an average man. I had to remind him for testing positive for steroids. That was the angle I went down. I couldn't show him too much respect. But when the fight's over, nothing but respect. Anderson Silva, an absolute legend. Number 1, We got to give it to the man himself, to the machine, the godfather of British MMA, Iain the Machine Freeman versus Frank Mir, UFC 38, the brawl at the Hall, the fight that started it all. Listen, Frank Mir, as I said before, was the future of the heavyweight division. He did go on to become a champion and he's had a legendary career. Iain Freeman was one of the first fighters from the UK to compete in the UFC. When I first started getting involved with mixed martial arts, I used to train with Iain a lot. In fact, my first ever professional fight was on his fight card that he promoted, Pride and Glory 2 in Newcastle. I went up against Steve Matthews, and that's what got the show, the ball rolling. And as I say, Iain taught me a few things. We used to spar with each other throughout the years, so I know Iain very well, and the career that he had in the UFC in mixed martial arts was phenomenal, and he inspired multiple generations of fighters, including myself. Now, this fight against Frank Mir, obviously Frank Mir was the favourite, but then on top of that, Iain Freeman's father was dying of cancer. Okay, and I wish I'd looked this up before I did this video, but I've got to go. I'm not sure if he died before the fight or if it was immediately after, so my apologies for not having that part absolutely correct. But Iain, he won the fight. Frank Mir was going for heel hooks. When you go for heel hooks in a mixed martial arts contest, that's very, very dangerous. Any kind of leg locks, when a guy's standing up on your feet, on their feet, and you're going for heel hooks and knee bars and stuff like that, it's very dangerous, because in an MMA fight, you can punch him in the face. Clearly, in a jiu-jitsu match, you can't do that, so that's one thing. But in MMA, it's often a very dangerous approach. Iain had a great base, started landing some big, big shots, and he literally beat the crap out of Frank Mir. Afterwards, Iain was rightfully so very emotional on the microphone. He dedicated that performance to his father, and it was just a beautiful moment, a hell of a victory, and as I say, really put British mixed martial arts on the map. So Iain Freeman, the machine, hope you're well, my friend. Take a bow, and there it is. There's 5 of the best fights to happen on UK soil this weekend. Big fights in London. You never know, we might have some that top all of them. Anyway, hope you're all well. Take care, subscribe and ring the bell. All the best.